Okay, so what I'm thinking, since we've never done this before, Jimmy and I will do the workshop presentation, and then all of the other officers, if you can just jump into the chat and answer any questions that pop up, because I currently don't see the chat. That'd be awesome sauce. Yeah?
Someone says Unity isn't opening for them.
These are going to be the types of problems that we solve today. Oh boy. But it's good. It's going to be good. We're going to get it solved. Yeah, force quitting it. Okay, there we go. There's the chat. Welcome everyone to the Intro to Unity workshop. I'm Joseph. We have a bunch of other officers here, and Jimmy will be helping out with the presentation. Today, we're going to show you all how to use Unity. So you should have all installed Unity Hub, Visual Studio 2019, and some version of Unity by now, preferably a Unity 2019 version. We're going to start off with making a new project through the Unity Hub. And so since you're probably new to this, you might not have projects here, but you should have a little new button over here. You can select that, and then you can select the Unity version that you have, and that'll bring up the Create a New Project window. And here you can select the different templates. For now, we're just going to make a 3D one. And you can name the project whatever you want. I'm going to do Intro to Unity Workshop, or admit. And then you can also pick the location that you want to save it to. I have a Unity projects folder on my D drive. I don't know if it auto creates a folder for you guys or if you have to make one yourself. Oh boy, that sounds like a problem. Let's see. So let's see what happens. When I press create, it closes the hub, and then it starts up Unity.
I think you might need to make an account first.
Do you need to make a Unity account?
Oh.
Yeah, you need an account, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, to register like a
it's the license.
I think you need an account to install Unity even, so
you can get a free one. It's just the next step.
Okay, so
I guess
that was something I was not aware of.
The free license isn't really limited in much ways until you start to like build stuff and sell.
Okay, cool. In that case, I'm going to continue moving on. So you should be at this window. If anyone's not at this window, post in the chat so that way the officers can help out with that. Let's see. You should have at least 6 windows visible in your editor. The scene window, the game window, the hierarchy, the inspector, the project, and the console.
In the meantime, while stuff is loading, if anybody's still looking into the license management stuff, if you can't find the setting for it, it's kind of tucked away in Unity Hub. If you press the little gear in the top right of Unity Hub, then it takes you to preferences and you can go to license management there.
And so if you don't have any of these windows showing up, then you can go up here where it says window and then general, and you can choose which windows you want to be visible on your editor. And as I mentioned, you want scene, game, hierarchy, inspector, project, and console. You want all 6 of these here because these are like the most important windows in Unity.
You can actually just press Windows, then Layout, then Default.
Oh shoot, where's that? Windows, Layout, Default? Oh, dang, nice. Okay. I didn't even know about that one. And then we recommend doing, changing a setting that's going to make development a little bit easier for you guys. So if you go up to Edit, and then Preferences, and then in Colors, and if you change the Play Mode tint to just any color, so that way it's different from invisible, this is going to help you a lot later on. Basically, when you start editing games and you start testing them, it's going to help you distinguish between the 2 types of modes that you'll be using. Cool. And then now we're just going to talk about all the different windows that you can see here. So this is the scene window. This is the current scene of your game. So I guess a scene is kind of like a level. So the main menu, level 1, level 2, these are all different scenes that you'll be exploring and creating in your game. Right now it's empty, but you can move around with it by using the WASD to move around the screen. Right click controls the orientation of your camera. Scrolling goes back and forth. And Q and E move up and down, but I think you need to be holding right click as you do that. Yeah, you need to be holding right click as you do all of that. And then we have the game window over here. And this is what the player actually sees. So if you click the play button, you should see it uses the tint that we set up. This is why we set it up, so that way you know when you're in play mode and not in play mode. When you actually make the game and you have all this stuff in the scene, you'll do testing by going into play mode, playing it, and just playing the game. But an important thing to remember during this is that you don't want this to be playing as you're making edits, because when you stop playing it, anything that you changed will revert. All right, and then sometimes what we do is we move the game window to the side so you can see both the scene and the game window at the same time. Essentially what this will allow you to do is when you're testing the game, you can also see things in the editor and kind of have like a free roam flying camera throughout the whole game. It's very good for debugging. All right, and so now we are going to create some objects. So the project window down here has all of the assets that are in a game. Every material, every script, every model is going to be located here, and then you pull it into the scenes. So if you right click in this window and then select import new asset or anything in the create menu, you can create something. So let's see, did I want to create anything? Screw it, let's create a scene. And so I right click to create new scene, and this just lets you create a scene. And then if you wanted to, you could even go in it and you can then mess around in the scene if you wanted to. And then in the hierarchy window, these are all the objects that are in the current scene. So the player character, the enemies, the environment, everything for this particular scene is what you're going to see in this window. And so to create objects and have them in the current scene, you right click in this window and select the object that you want to create down here. So right now, let's go under 3D object and create a capsule. And you can see it right over here. To zoom to it, you can double click it. And now I'll just speed the camera over to it. Let's see. And so if you look in your scene window, you should see the capsule. If it's not in the game window, it's because it's not in view of the main camera. The main camera you can see on my screen is over here, and it's looking like this way. And so while we can't see the capsule in the game window just yet because it's a little outside of range. Jimmy, you want to take over manipulating objects? Will my changes to preferences be maintained onto different projects? Yes, it will. So now you don't have to worry about changing that color thing ever again. Should we move level 1 into the scenes folder? If you want, that's all organization. So depending on how organized you want to be, you can move things around in the project folder or in the project window.
So basically to manipulate objects, like moving them around, rotating and scaling them around the world, we can just left click the object in the scene window. So I can, this is when nothing's being selected. When I click the capsule, you see this highlight and the arrows. these arrows indicate that we're in move mode. So dragging each of the arrows moves the capsule in one of the 3 directions, either X, Y, or Z. Yeah. And then for now, we want to make sure that we can see the capsule. So when I press play, okay, capsule's in view, so that's fine. So if you need to see where the camera can actually see, just click on the camera. You can move the camera itself first. You can click on the camera itself to move the camera so the capsule's in view, or you can move the capsule into the camera's view.
What do you need enabled in order to like move the capsule again?
Make sure you're in move mode. So with the move tool. So in the top, you see the bar.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
To the left, top left. Just click on the arrows that's in 4 directions, and that's move tool. Or you can press E, I believe.
All right.
When you're in the when you're selected the scene to use the move tool.
I think it's W.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, W, my bad.
Yeah, you're good.
And the next thing we can do with this is to rotate. So when I have the capsule selected, I can press E or use the rotate tool up in the top left. And this allows me to rotate a capsule in at various angles. Feel free to rotate however we want. We can reset it later. And then lastly, we can use the scale tool or press the R button in the scene window to scale the capsule in one of the 3 directions, making it either wider, taller, however.
And so Jimmy, how do you get it to go back to normal now?
To reset it, we can either do the painful ways, which is just use the tools and scale it all the way back. But the easier way is to, on the right side, you see this transform. If you have the transform component, if you have the capsule selected, you can see the values, the rotation and the scale values. What you want to reset this is to set rotation back to 0, 0, 0, and scale back to 1, 1, 1. And then the capsule's back to normal. Wait, there's a reset button?
3 dots. Yeah.
Yo, is that a thing?
Oh, nice.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but
we're all learning here.
See, you find things out about this kind of stuff every day.
Yeah, the reset button resets everything back to default, which if you moved it elsewhere, you're gonna have to move it back.
Yeah, it's just an easy way to like set things. If you know you want something to be a nice long boy, you just change one of the values to like 10,000 and boom.
So we were talking about the inspector window right here with the transform component, but there are still other components such as the mesh filter, mesh renderer, and the capsule collider. So we're gonna keep it simple here. Mesh filter is pretty much what sets the shape of the object, the part that allows this capsule to be in the shape of a capsule. The renderer allows the mesh to show with a material. So I'm just gonna do a quick demo here. We'll do this later, but I can give this a red material color, and when I assign a material to it, it pretty much just shows what the material shows the color of the material. And a capsule collider does for physics, like game physics, where you can have multiple capsules or other objects collide with each other.
Yeah. And it's also worth mentioning, the mesh renderer also allows it to just show up in general. So if you wanted a thing to be invisible, you could disable the mesh renderer, and then that thing just doesn't appear even though it's there.
The material was for a quick demo, actually. I just right-clicked into Asset, select Create, Material, and I just gave it some random name. I'll just call this one Blue.
Blood.
And then I can, to make a really simple material of just like a single color, I go to the inspector window here. And under main maps, albedo, click on this color box, and I just give it a random color. I named it blue, so I'll give it blue. And I just X out, drag the material onto the capsule in the scene window, and the capsule is now blue.
Next up is how to add components.
Okay. So one of the components we want to add for the upcoming part is to add a rigid body component. So here go back to the inspector window with the capsule selected. On the bottom, you see the add component button, and we can just click on it and just quickly type in a rigid body. We want the non-2D version because there's a 3D game. And we can just create this simple thing, just a simple rigid body. And then make sure use gravity is enabled, because if it's enabled, once we go into play mode, capsule falls because gravity is being applied.
So components are also how you attach code to stuff. We're not going to delve into actually programming all that much today, but we are going to show you how to add an existing script as a component to something. So now if you could download the PlayerMovement.cs script that I linked that in the general talking channel on Discord and the general channel. And when you download it, just drag it into the project window.
Now we want to import this code into our assets for the project. We can right click in the project window under the assets tab. We can right click, import new assets. And then we can select the C# script wherever you saved it to. You don't need to move. You don't need a floor to move because we disabled gravity on our capsule for now.
Yeah, if you go into the rigid body, there's the use gravity.
Yeah, you can disable use gravity so the capsule doesn't fall. So to apply this script we just downloaded, we can just take this script and drag it into the inspector of the capsule. So make sure you have the capsule selected, and we can just drag it in to the bottom. And now the script is applied to this capsule. For now, just leave everything, all the settings as default, and then press play. And then when I'm pressing WASD or the arrow keys, the capsule is moving around.
Yeah, it's good to mention we didn't make like a super perfect script here, and that's something that we'll all learn as time goes on, that it's just because something works does not mean it's going to work all that well.
Yeah, this is just a really simple script to show how you can interact with the game, with the script. And for now, we can also, if we toggle off moving, as you can expect, nothing will allow the capsule to move. And if I enable tumbling, which is our really weird way to say rotate, if you press WASD, you can rotate the capsule. Oh, also by the way, you can also toggle the script settings while you're in play mode. So if I turn on moving now and go back to the scene, if you have moving and tumbling enabled, like with the check mark, yes, you can move both. You can both move and rotate. Since I turned on moving in play mode, so once I go out of play mode, moving is now unchecked because that was the state before I actually went into the game, went into playtesting.
So prefabs are short for prefabricated game objects. And that just means it's a reusable asset that stores all of the properties that were set at the time it was created. So each prefab of the same asset can be each prefab of the same asset can be modified further independently of the original version. It's kind of like cloning, I would say. You have your base prefab, and then you can put a copy of it into the scene and then just change it up a little bit. And so to create a prefab of your capsule, you just drag the capsule from the hierarchy window into your project window. And that, let me do that while I'm saying it. And so then you should see under assets, your capsule is in the project window. You can then drag the prefab back into the hierarchy window to create a copy of the capsule. And then if you were to play the game again, you would see that all of the player prefabs move together. You can add more components to an existing prefab instance.
Yes. I'll just
Okay.
add a cube to it.
Yeah, that's a better idea.
Like what
yeah.
we did.
Oh yeah. We were talking about that.
So now we have two capsules, both on the same prefab, but one of them we added a cube to it.
And then you can update the other instances by right-clicking the added component and click on Apply Game Object, Apply to Prefab.
Yes, so we would right-click the cube, add a game object, apply to prefab capsule. Now both of the capsules have a cube as a head.
And you can also modify a prefab by double-clicking the prefab in the project window. This opens the prefab for editing, and changes here will be applied to all of the prefab instances.
So the way that you get here is if you double-click on the capsule in the hierarchy, right? To the prefab
in the
editing?
assets window.
Oh, okay.
Project window, yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of skipped over how to adding the children to objects.
My bad.
Yeah, that was a little fast.
Yeah, to do that, I right-clicked on the capsule to create a child capsule, which I can rotate around the capsule, and this is applied to all the other capsule prefabs in the game.
Yeah. The script that we asked you to attach was a script that we created, and it just moves the character by changing, I think it's velocity, right?
It changes the velocity and the angular velocity of the capsule. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so essentially the tumbling and the moving things are booleans, and we just set the boolean, you can set them to true or false, and that will affect what the code does. And we'll talk more about coding, I think, in 2 weeks. Inheritance. We kind of just went over inheritance.
Yeah.
If you want to just explain a little bit more.
So yeah, inheritance pretty much, since we applied the script to the capsule, this capsule is considered the parent because it's on a higher level in the hierarchy. As you get in the hierarchy window, you can see it is represented with a drop-down window, whatever it's called, drop-down menu. The capsule is considered a parent, and everything under the drop-down is considered a child of this capsule. So when you have a script being applied to the parent, the child of all its children are affected by the same script. I'm going to do a short demonstration here. I'll make another cube. So I have a cube and a sphere, right? The sphere is a child of the cube, and the cube has this player movement script attached to it. Hold on, forgot something. I need to apply a rigid body to the cube. The sphere moves along with the cube because the cube is the parent with the player movement script. So the sphere inherits this property. When I move the sphere out of the cube, make the sphere as its own thing and not a child of the cube. When I move the cube moves on its own rather than and the sphere is not attached to the cube. That's pretty much a simple explanation of inheritance.
Aren't your transforms also relative to your parent whenever you're parented?
Yes. So the parent has its transform relative to the world position, like relative to the world default position, which is 0, 0, 0. And the sphere is relative to the position of the child is relative to the center of the cube, of the center of the parent. So yeah, the cube has these weird values for x, y, and z for position, but you can see from the sphere that it is just x for 0 for x and z, because all the sphere is like moved like upwards in the y direction relative from the cube center. Now just to go over again, just really
In case anyone
quickly,
missed it.
project window, right click, create, material, I'm gonna call it green this time. And then I can go to the right, under main maps albedo, select some simple color, keeping it simple. And then you can drag the material onto an object in the scene to apply this material. So in the script that we gave you, we added like some really basic logging, which just prints out like, this is a normal log, this is a warning log, this is an error log, just really simple things. You can, when you're writing a script, you can make some logging messages that are helpful for debugging. Obviously, normal log is just for like tracking values. That's what you should use that for. Warning log is when there's like something wrong, something minor, I guess. Some minor
something
problem.
that's not game breaking, but is it definitely a problem?
And then error log is like for some severe problems in the script.
But it is worth mentioning that they technically don't really matter. So if you just want to use them to like help color code your logs, you can also do that, which is something that I do. It's not necessarily good programming practice, but it's possible.
The console output's pretty useful when you're trying to debug problems in the game. And yeah, you can filter them out as needed, but you can just click on the 3 different bubbles and it'll show you. If it's white, I believe, for most things, then it's selected and you can see the logs.
Layers and tags is something that I didn't even fully understand until recently, but they're really super cool. So if you select an object, like we've selected the capsule here, and then you look in the inspector window up here, there's these things called tags and layers. And essentially you can use them primarily with programming to identify objects. And so the layers are for things at a high level. So things like water, projectiles, enemies, that's for layers. Let me see. So for example, we could do a layer called ground. And then how do I get back out of this? Do I just have to select that again? Cool. And so I didn't really explain that, but if you click like the layer drop-down menu, and then you click add layer, it opens up this thing, and then you can create layers here. And then when you go back to the object, you can choose the layer that you created. And then a tag is for things that are more specific. So we made a layer called ground. If you wanted it so that way when the player is walking across different types of ground, it does different sounds. So like dirt does one sound, stone does another sound, wood does another sound. That's what the tag would be used for. And so here you would do add tag and then new tag wood, and then save that. And then you can give this the wood tag. And so that way when you're doing the programming aspect of it, you have to like, let's say it needs to check if it's touching the ground, it checks the layer, is the layer ground? Yes. Then it's, okay, what sound do we play? It then checks the tag, and that's how it determines the sound. And so that's another little thing. And I think that's everything that we have for the editor. So now you should be able to just kind of be able to navigate through this, know what everything does, and just not necessarily make a game, but just mess around with it. So if anyone has any questions, I think now we could totally delve into different things since we finished up pretty early. We could talk some about collisions. I like that idea. So with collisions, we mentioned we created the there's the capsule collider. And if we still have this, we also said, where's the rigid body? We said we wanted use gravity to be off. If you turn use gravity on, it's gonna start, oh wow, it doesn't move that much. Oh, it's because the mass is little. There we go. Okay, it starts falling. And so if you wanted to do, I'm gonna put that, delete. If you create a 3D object, a cube, and with this cube, you place it like below the capsule. And this cube, so this cube has a box collider. So this thing can collide with other things. This capsule has the capsule collider, so it can also collide with other things. We're going to give the rigid body a mass of 20 so it can actually fall well. And we're going to set the gravity on. And you can see the cap that moved very slowly, but the capsule is touching the ground that we created. And if you wanted something to if you wanted something to be passable, one thing that you could do is you could see how this says is trigger. You can set that to true, and essentially what this does is it makes it so that way this thing, you can pass right through it, but also coding-wise, you can detect when something passes through it and then trigger something with your code. And so I set the cube to is trigger, and so now with this capsule, which still moves very slowly for some reason. Maybe it's this. I don't think it is, but there we go. There we go. The capsule just fell right through the cube. Or you could just turn off the box collider and boom, it still falls right through the cube.
How would I make a bouncy ball, Joseph?
How would you? I don't know, actually. That's a great question.
I do. You can use what's called physics materials. So if you go to assets and right click.
Assets and right click.
Go to create.
Yeah.
Physics material should be down there under signal.
All right. That one. Physics material.
There you go. And then you can crank that bounciness up to 1.
All right. Bounciness up to 1.
All right. Now go back to your capsule in the hierarchy.
Okay.
And there should be under capsule collider, none physics material. Drag new physics material over to that.
All right. Oh, I think this needs to be back. Oh, this thing's on or this thing needs that. Okay, we're good. All right, and then just play it?
Just play.
I didn't bounce all that much, but I saw a little bit of bounce.
Yeah, try reducing your mass, maybe.
It needs more mass? I don't think it needs more mass.
I think it needs less mass.
Less mass, less mass. Yeah.
Less mass. Oh, gotcha. I know how to do physics. Cool.
You might want to change your mass back to be more than 1 times 10 to the
Hey, there it goes.
Oh.
Boing.
Nice.
But yeah, that's bounciness.
Epic.
Nice.
You can also do stuff with friction on that as well. So you can make like ice pads or bounce pads or all sorts of stuff. And then you can average out and everything. It's good for stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in Unity. And there's tons of tutorials out there. We recommend Brackeys if you ever want to do some extra reading. And by reading, I mean watching. He's an amazing YouTuber that just explains anything you need in Unity. 10 out of 10. Brackeys, Brackeys.
Wow, didn't even need to use it in a sentence, huh?
No,